Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Naomi Richmond, and I will be discussing sports business and diversity, equity, and inclusion today, and looking at the intersection of these two big topics. We'll start off, we'll look at the current landscape of DE&I on the business side of sports. Then we'll dive deeper into what it really means to be what really is the goal of DE&I efforts. And lastly, we'll explore ways to attract more diversity. Well, let's get this going. So I'll start with a brief background on me and why I'm here to discuss this topic. So I'm a mixed kid from Cleveland, Ohio, with a black dad and a white mom. So because of this, I've grown up with the freedom to talk openly and deeply about racial implications of being both of these races. I've grown more in my DE&I experience in college in roles with Wharton's only diversity program called STEP. And I've gotten to take what I've learned and apply it to my current role as the co-president of the Wharton Undergraduate Sports Business Club. You might hear it referred to as WUSBC. So to start off, first, what is sports business? So very broadly speaking, it is anyone and any company involved in sports outside of the players. So that's the coaching staff, front office owners, GMs, and even the brands you see at the concession stands. So that's all the things from the major sports leagues to the clothing brands on the athletes to the type of snacks you're eating at the game. All of this is part of the big industry. Second, what is DE&I? The best way to think about these three concepts is the party analogy. This is coined by Verna Myers. So diversity can be thought of as just being invited to the party. So you receive an invitation, but nothing more about the party is geared towards you. Equity, on the other hand, is going to the party. So now you're allowed to enter the party, but you're kind of separated from the majority. Maybe you're eating chips in the corner and just listening to music, right? Inclusion is actually being invited to dance. So now you're not separate from the majority and you're even dancing to music that you and the majority enjoy. With these three stages of DE&I, you can really see how each stage is important. Without even just one of these, the party is only made to be enjoyed by those in power to put on the party in the first place. And diversity is more than just racial diversity, even though that is often the main area of focus nowadays. Diversity of gender, LGBTQIA, nationalities, age, religion, and even differences in ability are also very, very important. Without diverse diversity, we are missing the benefits of diversity. So, what are those benefits? One big one is representation. This is important for both the players and the greater minority population at large. For players, representation can lower an us versus them mentality around the business side of the game. When people who look like you are advocating for you both on and off the court, there's a greater understanding and respect for each other. For the minority population at large, representation gives minority kids people to look up to in positions outside of the sport itself. They don't just have to be a basketball player, they can also work in the front office and still be involved in sports without being on the court. Naturally, with representation comes understanding and diverse perspectives. Some things are just bigger than the game, and some things are just bigger than the game. And people on the business side who understand that and share those feelings with the players and the fans can provide that perspective into the business decisions. Once the first three are in place, DE&I sets up future generations for success by battling negative implicit biases and building wealth and opportunities for minority groups. Upcoming minorities will have an easier time being accepted and hired into these roles, which will start to build a positive cycle in these communities. This might seem like a really lofty goal at the moment, but it does kind of already exist in small pockets. So, where does all this diversity come from, right? So, diversity actually attracts more diversity. Minority organizations support the members often by helping them get opportunities where other minorities have been welcomed. This isn't just because it's easier to get an opportunity when you know someone in the organization, but also because minorities share safe spaces to work with each other in the broader community of minorities. So, if you want diversity in your organization, you have to welcome it when it comes. Support your diverse coworkers and be mindful of the courage it takes to enter a space in the first place. This trend of diversity attracting diversity starts at the very, very beginning. I remember even the first WUSBC meeting I ever attended as a freshman in college. At the time, none of my friends had ever heard of the club, and that was kind of weird to me. A lot of my friends recommend clubs, and that's kind of how I joined them. So I was on this journey by myself. When I arrived, I walked into a room, and it was just full of white men eating pizza. Um, there were very few times where I felt more out of place than this, and I'm mixed and very light skinned. And it was a very shocking experience to me because I hear sports business and I think, oh, okay, sports. It probably attracts a lot of athletes, which also includes a lot of minorities. So I kind of expected a room full of minority athletes. Because I really wanted to get into sports business, I had to lean into this uncomfortability and see where it would take me. So thankfully, now there are many members of the minority community that I'm a part of, STEP, and a few of us are even on the executive board. On top of that, I'm one of two people of color female co-presidents now. So the organization has gained a lot more diversity since I've entered. So if diversity attracts diversity, how do we get the ball rolling, right? This is the hard part. It takes hard work from both the organization and the diverse candidates. So, first, starting with the company, it really needs to prepare itself for diversity. This looks like implicit bias trainings, allyship trainings, inclusive hiring practices, doing real work in minority communities, and calling out fellow employees on their various isms. Diversity doesn't just fall onto the back of the minorities. It's the more the workplace represents and respects and supports diversity, the more diversity will come to it. Second, the diverse candidates can't just show up and expect sunshine and rainbows, right? The willingness to take a chance on a new organization has to come with the drive to create and build a better environment for future minorities. I'm not trying to say that racism is easy and should just be pushed aside, but rather that it's extremely important to create allies in the workplace who have true intentions. So, speaking of these true intentions, not everything that looks like DE&I actually is. It's important to know where an organization stands on these issues, but it's even more important to know what work on the ground an organization is doing to truly support minority rights. Similarly, there's a big difference between hiring one minority candidate and actually hiring minorities. Tokenism is a great example of just checking off the box for diversity without following through on the equity or inclusion part. Performative DE&I doesn't just stop once the candidate is in the door. It can continue by not promoting minority employees to positions of power, or not implementing accessibility measures for a disabled employee, or even just not addressing microaggressions. Any of these can really be performative DE&I. So I've shared a lot of information with you, a lot to digest and go home and take with you, but let's zoom out for a second to the bigger picture and the classic line, if there's only three things you remember from this, let them be this: the start, the goal, and the execution. So the start. Diversity attracts diversity. So get the ball rolling. What can you do to start the diversity chain in your organization and make it a welcoming place for minorities? The goal, the diversity of the business, should match that diversity on the court and the field. That's the goal, you know. We just want equal representation. And lastly, the execution. Go beyond just in being the invite to the party. You know, don't forget about the E and I of DE&I, the equity and inclusion. Join, ask people to dance, invite them, listen to their music, you know, really be an ally in that. So thank you all for listening. I encourage you to do your part in being an ally.